Hi, it's Rafael the Realtor. All right, so this is video 2 of common mistakes people make when they're evaluating their home. So the first video we talked about more theoretical, more non-tangible things when it comes to buying your home and what you should think about during the search, before the search, and just planning out the whole process. This one we're gonna bring it in a little bit closer and start talking about communities. When you're buying a home, looking into the communities, finding out communities that work with you are gonna be what's gonna make the whole process fantastic. So the first mistake that people make is they don't evaluate the neighboring cities. Sometimes you're gonna find a home in a great place, a great area, but you don't really evaluate the neighboring cities. In California, we're a commuter city, we drive a lot, and being in a city and knowing that the city next to you is not an industrial city, because if you live right next to a city that might be a city that does a lot of shipping, a lot of industrial stuff, a lot of lumber, you're going to suffer because you're going to miss out on things like restaurants. You're going to get a lot more traffic from bigger vehicles going through your neighborhood, and those kind of things might affect your quality of life. So looking at your neighboring city, maybe some of the neighboring city might be run down. Maybe the neighboring city might be booming. If all of a sudden you see that there are plans for the city next to the place you want to buy a house, they're planning to put an Amazon headquarters there, that's going to affect your house. It might increase the value of your house. It might add more traffic to the area. So looking at your neighboring city, seeing what their plans are, seeing what they're planning to do is going to really help you kind of not make one of the major mistakes that people make when they're choosing their homes. So let's see, we started with the neighboring cities. Let's bring it into your city. Looking at your city, how convenient is your city? Does your city have mainly the things that people look for? Do you have gas stations? Do you have fast food? Do you have restaurants? Do you have shopping places? Do you have a lot of options? Looking at those things sometimes can help you decide if this is really the place you want to live. Some people, like me, I'm a child of the millennium. I love technology. I rarely ever go out and shop. I buy things on Amazon. The only time I leave when I'm not working is never to shop. It's always to just return boxes from Amazon of things I didn't want. And so if you're like that, you may not look too much. I tend to cook, I bake, I tend to do all of that at home. So I don't really, when I'm buying a house, I don't look to see if my city has that, because those aren't important to me. But if you're a person who likes to go out, maybe you enjoy nightlife, you enjoy going to the theater, looking to see if your city or your neighboring city has those things might make the difference between the place that you live being a place that you can enjoy and call home, or a place that you're like, you know what, this wasn't the best choice, and you definitely don't want that. So make sure that the city you buy a home in is a city that you can, have a good time in. And so number 3 is not evaluating your neighborhood. When it comes to buying a home, your neighborhood is where you're going to spend most of your time. And so sometimes people buy homes and you find great homes, and if you get a great deal, then maybe just buy that home. But a lot of people don't evaluate their neighborhood. They don't look at their neighborhood and the connecting neighborhoods. That's all the stuff you want to look at. You want to see, are people out? Do people go and walk their dogs? If you see a house you like and you're interested in buying it, drive through the neighborhood during the day, during the afternoon, during the evening, drive through it on the weekends, during work days, and see what kind of neighborhood it is. Because if no one's ever outside in your neighborhood, that's a neighborhood that unfortunately people aren't really watching. Another thing is, when you have a neighborhood when people are outside walking their dogs, they're riding bikes, then you get a sense that this neighborhood's probably pretty safe. People feel comfortable walking around, and that really means that you'll be able to have a good time. Sometimes you'll be in some neighborhoods and you'll see kids just riding their bikes going somewhere, and those kind of things are good signs that this neighborhood is a pretty friendly neighborhood and kids feel comfortable walking around most of the time. And another thing you look at in your city is convenience. in your neighborhood is going to be convenience. You want to make sure that you have the stuff you need, because I know some people who they buy beautiful houses up in the mountains because it's great. And if you end up getting sick, you have a cold, someone has an asthma attack, and you need to get down to CVS, 30 minutes can make a big difference. And same thing for emergency vehicles. If something happens and there's an emergency, if you don't really consider that, hey, I live in this area, it's going to take longer to get there. If there's a flood, if there's any kind of emergency, how long are people going to take to get to me? How far am I from these things? Not considering those things sometimes puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage. It could make a situation that could be salvageable into a more dangerous situation. And also, I made a video about pets. Knowing where you live and knowing the wildlife around where you live might be able to protect your pets, because I know for me, pets are family, and if I had a dog and it was outside and a coyote scooped it up, that would ruin the rest of my year. So just knowing those kind of things is going to make your home a lot more livable and a lot more fun. Okay, so let's see. We started at the neighboring cities. We went into your city. We went to your neighborhood. Now let's talk about the outside of your house. You want to just take a look. Most people aren't contractors. Maybe you've been watching a lot of home improvement TV shows and you've learned a thing or two, but looking at things of like raised foundations versus a concrete slab, because if you have wires that need to be fixed in your house, and wires or pipes or anything like that, and all of those are in the ground, if you have a raised foundation, then someone can just crawl under the house and take care of that. If you have a concrete slab, sometimes they need to break up the slab to get to certain pipes and stuff in the house. And so knowing the difference and what the pros and cons of each kind is going to really help out. A lot of times they're going to run a lot of wires and stuff through the ceiling and through the roof because you're on a raised or you're on a concrete slab. But if you're on a raised foundation, they tend to run it under so people could crawl under. But then also, if you have that space, you need to make sure that there are grates covering them, because the last thing you want is a family of possums or raccoons or some other creatures living under your home. And so those are little things that you look out for. You look out for any weird wiring. Does the side of the wall have a weird wire wrapped around it that heads to the garage that just dangles? Those kind of things are really issues you want to look for. You want to look at the concrete, the pavement. One of the main things that a lot of people don't pay attention to, and when people are pouring concrete, sometimes they do it on their own, and they just put a flat concrete slab there. And if they've done that by themselves, sometimes they make the mistake of having the concrete slab kind of going down this way. And if they do that, that could lead water straight towards the foundation of the house, which could create a problem if there isn't any drainage there. So looking at a house and seeing one of those potential issues, like, oh, this concrete slab is at an angle, so the water might roll right back through the front door, might roll right back in through the back door, or might just roll right into one of those grates that go directly under the house, and that could create a problem for you over time. It could cause your house to sink. So looking at those kind of things, and when you have a home inspector, trying to ask those questions, is there anything, if you see something that you say, hey, this looks suspicious, is it okay? Make a note of it, and when we get your home in escrow, we'll do a home inspection, ask the home inspector, hey, is this okay, is that okay, is this okay? And they'll let you know based on their professional opinion. Or if you have a contractor and you want to bring them around one time before we even put an offer, you could just ask your friend to come, and then we could look over those things and they could give you good advice. Okay? So that's all of it for the second video. I hope that you don't make any of these common mistakes when you're buying your dream home. So like I always say, you can't always be the best at everything, but you can choose to work with the best agent who gives you great information for free. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.